podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Transfer Show here on Anfield Index Pro. As ever, I'm Trev Downey and joined by Mr. Dave Davis to talk through whatever is happening with regards to transfers both at Liverpool in the Premier League, and then we may have a look abroad as well. Dave, tell me there's things happening.
There's things happening, Trev. Whether you want them to be the things that you want to happen, I don't know. But there's things happening, I can tell you that. Can't tell you a lie on that, eh?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. What a way to put you on the spot straight away. That's awful stuff. It's an interesting thing. But before we get started on Liverpool, and the potential stories that are about there, top of our agenda here is the word straight from the manager's mouth, and I think one of those words was probable in relation to transfers. In his most recent interview there was the post-Betis chat that he did, or maybe it was the pre-Betis chat. I'm just really, really interested to get a little bit from you on this. What did you think was happening? What did he say? I know he was quoting his pal Richard again, as he tends to do, and again, just chatting to Cy Brundish on AIP earlier on. He reckons it's a good thing to see this partnership, that it's encouraging to see that, and to see Hughes so front and centre. I guess we'll wait and see. But apparently it's about waiting for the right ones. That's going to make people nervous. Talk to me about what he said and what you took from it, man.
It was fascinating because before this press conference, I actually spoke to a couple of the sort of patch studios and people were there. And it's like, is it going to be anything worthwhile? And all it came back with, like, nah, it's just going to be, I'm happy, like, US tour, blah, blah, blah. In fact, one journal actually said, it's just going to be a load of fluff. And then at the end of the press conference, replied with, oh, shit. So, yeah, he gave us a bit more than we thought he would, to be honest. And he was very honest. And it's kind of funny because we can lambast people in football for that, and then we criticise them for being all wooden and the same, don't we? So let's take him at face value, Trev. But he didn't really leave any doubt whatsoever in what he said. He said it would be a surprise for all of us if we didn't bring any players in. So that will probably happen in the end. But for now, we're just waiting for the right players to come back and waiting for the right ones to sign. I mean, I'm going to be honest, Trev, I don't think there are too many ways of interpreting that. So he's telling him he's going to be a surprise if we don't, and it will probably happen in the end. So he's kind of got this sort of Damocles over him now because he's never probably experienced the Liverpool fan base rage. I mean, Jurgen Klopp was different with transfers, and he just got angry at the ask in the first place, as we know. But Arne Slot is kind of like, he's left himself open there. Let's just say this. And naturally, and quite fairly for once, I would say, there's been a lot of reaction in regards to these comments saying, okay, so tell us what the surprise is. Yeah, well, how long are we going to have to wait? All these type of things. So the expectancy rises when the head coach makes comments like that. And as he also said, and you alluded to it as well, Richard's been ill. By the way, he says here, so it's his uncle or something. Richard's been working hard in the background as well and doing a lot of work for us. So, factually, Trev, everything he said, it's only going to lift expectation levels, eh?
It really is. And I think we're all within our rights to have expectations. New setup. We've all heard the stories, Dave. And we may well allude to them again before this show's over about how it's important to sort out the contracts, that there was a huge amount of work that they had to take on, this new group. I've been laughing myself silly at all the stories about how hard they're working, as though that's something that, they should get extra praise for. But it is interesting to hear talk about consolidation and player contracts and all that. None of that is exciting. None of that is sexy. None of that is what people want to hear. What people want to hear is what Arne has suggested and made himself and Richard pretty much hostages to fortune now, Dave. Nothing happens. We're off to a very bad start. And as you and I were talking about just before the mics went live, a bad start could be pretty brutal in terms of where the reaction of the fans goes. There's a lot of people ready, sitting there, Dave, ready, waiting to say it's not Klopp. There are a lot of people, again, I had this conversation with Simon in the previous show. You and I have kind of alluded to it a few times. It feels a little bit as if this guy, there's a lot of pressure on him, man. I don't envy him that, but I get the impression that he is getting the best out of people. There's very happy pictures from training. There's lovely comments from the likes of Curtis and Harvey, and we've yet to see a lot of the big name players come back. But I'll tell you what, if they look anything like Mo Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold when they do, Conor Bradley also talking about bulking up at the gym. Simon was just saying that could be a wonderful thing, because that might be the new physiology that's required for modern football, not the lean, lithe, Andy Robbo type physicality. This might be the way to avoid some more injuries. There's a lot to be excited about at the same time, isn't there, Dave?
Everything you're seeing so far, you like, aren't you? Like you said, in terms of the players bulking up, the inside training footage, the drills they're doing, the build-up play talk, all those types of things, very much as we're starting to see. And we have to be careful we don't overanalyze with just the one game. Obviously, we've got Arsenal coming up, so that'll be useful. But the build-up style being more sort of Guardiola than Klopp, by outlay. So you're seeing the players' comments as well. You're hearing them, you're reading, you listen. Everything you're liking to your senses is great, isn't it, Trev? It's all good.
Back to school savings are officially in session at Tanger Outlets. Shop the latest school styles with an extra 25% off during Tanger Style, our biggest sale of the season, now through August 25th. Plan your trip at Tanger.com.
Get back to your personal best with Fresh Time Market's Summer Vitamins and Body Care Sale. From now until Tuesday, July 30th, get 30% off on thousands of wellness products department-wide. From nutrition-boosting supplements to hydrating summer skincare, let your best self shine with self-care savings. Brighten your summer with products and savings you'll feel great about at your neighborhood Fresh Time Market. Go to FreshThyme.com and find a store near you.
That's so far, because, as you said, if it's not 3 points of Ipswich and there's no player side by that time, reality will hit hard for a lot of people, won't you? You will watch some people turn quicker than last day milk. You know it's coming in that regard. So it kind of it's walking the line a little bit at the moment. It's all positive and everyone's liking the new style and all these things, and we're intrigued by it. And Arsenal, even this game coming up, if we lose, people will be like, oh, it's pre-season, all this. If we win, people will be like, oh, lads, we'll look how good we are, blah, blah, blah. It's because of the lack of transfers. I mean, let's be honest, we're the only club in the Premier League not to be involved in a transfer at this stage. People are kind of, certain things off the pitch are becoming accentuated. So it's interesting, Trev. It's all smiles now, but in a couple of weeks, we're all hoping it doesn't turn to tears, aren't we?
We are, and we're hoping that the likes of Nat Phillips, who's having a nice jolly up in the States, will get his move, for the love of God. But anyway, we'll get back to things that may or may not be happening by way of transfers, which is the business of this podcast. It's important to put it into context of the overall setup here, because we can't talk about Liverpool without talking and acknowledging the fact that it is literally all change, and some things are being said that need to be addressed. We do have a bit of a Trent story here. And again, this came up between myself and Simon in the last hour chat that we had, where it turns out we were both thinking along the same lines, which was this conversation that he's going to have with Arne could be the be-all and the end-all, because you'd like to think, Dave, that Arne is going to say, hey, Trent, just please be the best right back in the world, and let's do that again. And if Trent is very much seeing himself as something else, as Simon said, maybe now's the time to sell him, make big bank, and pull a lever that we've been hovering over. Listen, it's the last thing in the world I want to think about. I don't want to think about him or Mo or any of our great players leaving. But there are some angles here. We've seen him looking incredibly jacked, looking like in ridiculously good nick, very Mo Salah-esque in his body shape now. You could be cynical and say those photos are out there for other reasons as well. I want you to take us through what we know. I know you're going to mention a piece by Sam Maguire at some point as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one with Trent, because, I mean, all the stories, even going back to last week, as we mentioned, Trev, were along the lines of Richard Hughes' priority is Trent's renewal. That was what, a number of the patch journos had. That was the message clearly being communicated. The issue is now, people will fill the silence, because nothing's really going to fully develop until he's back training at Liverpool. He's pretty certain he's going to stay at the club. I just can't see a scenario. I might be wrong. Who knows? I know you and Simon have talked about it, but all the noises are from Liverpool that Trent will start the season with Liverpool, whatever happens. Who knows if that changes? The other things to mention are, it's like you said, that no one's quite sure what this conversation is going to be. They've had a quick chat already, but like you said, there's a big conversation, and Slot has said in press conferences he's got a clear idea of where he sees Trent. So they've got to have that conversation. How does Trent take it? How does Trent view it? Does he accept if Slot says right back? Does Slot even see him as a double pivot six? And before, I'm not suggesting that. We just don't know. There's all this unknown to fill in, and people are doing it in different ways. And because of the silence, people take a photo of him signing a Real Madrid shirt or something, don't they, Trev? People take a photo of him, let's be fair, looking absolutely ripped and jacked in training in one way. The key thing, why I was mentioning it, that Sam Maguire piece, there has been a lot of suggestions and these do link to sources close to the player, let's just put it that way, that he has been offered a big deal, is on the table. And then this is where it comes down to how you see things for me, Trev, because if Trent leaves, what's the reputational impact? I think that damages Liverpool's reputation, with Plot, Trent leaving, in that regard, that we can't get, people to necessarily stay. I personally think that has a dent. At the same time, there's the other side of school of thought that says, hold on, are we actually saying we could be paying 300 grand or close to 300 grand a week for a right back? Which is entirely possible, isn't it, at the same time? And, people will equate it to that way. There's a lot of silence here, and unfortunately, as a lot of journos are saying, it's not going to get filled until Trent comes back. So there's going to be a week or so, Trev, of just absolute fever pitch on everything. And people will imply things from a photo with Jude Bellingham, who's obviously a good mate, and all those types of things. So we kind of have to wait and see. It's got to the point for me, though, and I think this is one thing that people have to line it all up in their head. Whether you think we should sell, whether you think we should cash in, everyone is entitled to the opinion. Trev, can you imagine a scenario where we step into the season and none of those 3 stars are extending their contracts or going inside 12 months with the season properly started and the window closed? That does not send out any good messages. I also think there's a bit of this link to Richard Hughes' reputation. I think you have to be honest about that, because all the noises have been Richard Hughes' priority is getting this done. And yes, he's going to be working the background of it, no doubt about that. It's going to take time for it to come to public fruition at whatever route it goes down. But I just get the feeling for the next week and a bit, until Trent arrives back, there might just be some awkward umming and ahhing. That's what I'd say about it.
Yeah, it has that feel, doesn't it? It's absolutely pivotal. It feels a little bit, because it is a little bit like every decision that's being made now is huge. It's such a crux period for this new crowd to establish themselves, for fans to have faith, especially those who are so high on the Edwards and Ward and Hughes backroom wonder boys sort of argument. A lot of those people will feel like they've had egg on their face. They'll feel betrayed if there's not a squad shake-up. That's for sure. We do know, though, that there's likely, obviously, to have to be exits. I mentioned Nat Phillips, and if he doesn't get allowed to leave and get sorted out with a decent deal, somebody needs a slap. But the Endo story took a lot of people by surprise during the week, and apparently now there's an offer for Sepp Vandenberg as well. He's been saying some interesting, if not altogether positive things about his development under Liverpool's guidance. So we do have stories about lads who are potentially on their way out. The Endo thing struck me, Dave, and I just want to frame it up this way. You'll remember, because we discussed some quotes about from Endo about us signing new central midfielders, and he was very positive about it, and he was very adult and mature about it in the way that he spoke about it, kind of exactly what you'd want from a team player, a squad player. He seemed unthreatened and absolutely willing to share the platform. This, to me, sounds like the ideal words you'd want from a squad player. And is Endo not the ideal squad player? And you would think because he's 30, he's over the hill. We know he doesn't have pace, but we know what he does have. When he plays well, he's so good. He has been a real squad addition. Yeah, he's had some bad showings too, so maybe that's what people are leaning into here. What do we know about the offer that was made for Endo and where the club stands on it? And was there something solid for Vandenberg as well?
Yeah, there's the outgoings are starting to motivate. I know people don't get excited by these, but Liverpool has a bloated squad, it's fair to say. Bloated doesn't mean we've got 20 world-class players for every position, as people seem to think it has to at times, Trev. What it means is we've got a lot of players. Whether you think they're good enough, that's a different discussion, but we've got a lot of midfielders. You cannot ignore that on the book. So outgoings have to happen first. And yeah, there's a bit I liked about this whole Endo story, I've got to be honest. The bid came from Marseille, 14 million euros, which, you know, if you get your money changed at Tesco, gives you about £11.8 million. The thing about this, which I really liked, it felt like there was an element of control from Liverpool. Trev, this bid came in a fair few weeks ago. So it's not like it just, landed on the plate that night and we went for, Liverpool have very much kept this quiet. They made sure it's not being linked. Now, is it being done that way to, entice certain things? And one of the key parts of the story is, yes, Marseille had a bid rejected, but there's a lot of Bundesliga interest still from Endo. Well, for Endo, very much. So I'll be interested to see what happens there. The other two key parts to Endo are the club, and James Pearce wrote about this today, but there's a few others saying it, because I know people will pounce something that James Pearce says, but very much the briefing was that because there's no one who's suitable, affordable, and available at this moment in time, that's part of the reason why the Endo bid was rejected. But you'd have to query, why is this now becoming public knowledge? I think we've all got a suspicion, haven't we, through our age and our cynicism, Trev, of why Liverpool are doing this in a certain way. The ultimate thing as well, all the noises that are coming through the various journalists.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit libertyshield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Endo doesn't look like he's too popular, shall we say, for Arne slot. In the terms of the style, the way he plays, that was what quite a few journalists have written, said in their various articles, podcasts, whatever you want to put it. So that doesn't really bode well for Endo getting regular minutes, does it, as a starter? Whether he is happy being a squad player, who knows? People could say, well, at his age, surely he wants to move on. Like you say, he does seem quite a well-mannered, respectful chap, doesn't he? So that may play a part as well. But it seems there's definite interest, no doubt, in Endo. Sepp van der Berg, Trev. I think he's done more interviews than he's had appearances for Liverpool now, hasn't he? Or given more words, etc., about his position and everything. I mean, I can't remember, and someone could correct me on this, ever hearing a player talk so much about his valuation and, talk about it, well, 2 million's too little, 20 million's too much. I don't think, I can't remember top of my head anyway, any player that's talked in those terms. There was a bid from PSV a little while ago, 10 million euros though, Trevor. I think the response was, which leg do you want for that type of thing? However, the latest news is that there is a second bid in from PSV. I do not know how much it is at all, but, various suggesting that there is a second bid in from PSV. The only issue is PSV have been giving a lot of Dutch briefings that, they don't think he's worth this 20 million, and they would only go to a certain amount. So it's hard to see that happening, isn't it, in that regard? But again, a lot of Bundesliga clubs and others are interested in Sepp van der Berg, and there's definite Premier League interest at the same time as well. So it's one of them, Trev, for these two players. Who knows what's going to happen? But there's interest. There's been offers rejected. There's, clubs coming back to the table. Will that keep going till Liverpool hit the amount they want? You don't know. I mean, I can rationalise this either way. If they go, I'd understand it. I'm not adverse to keeping Sepp van der Berg. I'm really not. I think, as the options we have and the amount of business we've got to do still, I'm not adverse to us saying, this is the 5 centre-backs for this season. We've got a sort left-back and DM, maybe a wide forward, if that makes sense. I would be quite happy to that, because if Van der Berg goes, I know someone's going to shout, we could get a left-back who's a centre-back, but it's not always that straightforward, and you do not know how the club see it. So if Sepp goes, what does the club do in terms of a replacement? Because there's question marks, isn't there, around the fitness of a lot of the other centre-backs as well. So I'm not adverse to keeping Sepp. Endo, we've talked about this before, I know the idea of keeping him around. I'm not adverse to that, but this sounds so mean, but I genuinely don't care. I would sacrifice Endo in a heartbeat to get a top 6 in. That is just how I see it.
Yeah, there have been, and I know you haven't mentioned here because none of them have any weight behind them. Many players mentioned many different stories, but you have become very good at sifting through what has any legs at all and what is pure just content, clickbait nonsense. So I do actually appreciate that, because I know if it's not on your list here, if I've seen it maybe in 1 or 2 spots, it's probably in that latter category of, hokum nonsense, people trying to create a bit of churn for their website or whatever. But you mentioned the left centre back thing, and it's a bit of a worry that while I'm hearing, and maybe it's people again being fanciful, I'm hearing a lot of Alan Varela chat and stuff like that. I'm not hearing anything much. There was those couple of links to Inacio, but not since. So what's happening there? Have you heard anything even by way of, flimsy type stories?
I'd genuinely be lying if I said anything really new that's not been said. I think the key thing for me at the moment is, because of people's almost, and not everyone's desperate as I say this, but there is a desperation from some elements of we want a signing. And I understand it. People want the squad strength, and I'm not going at that for 1 second. Manifestation's the word I use, Trev. There's a lot of people almost like, I can speak it into existence a little bit. And listen, Barreira is a player that Liverpool have looked at some point and asked about, inquired about in the past. That's important to say. But if someone said, is that recent? No, and I'm not saying we always get it right, but my info is that goes way back. That doesn't mean they're not going to follow it up. And people forget this. We said this last summer, and we've said it this summer as well. I use this analogy quite a bit, Trev. Carpet shopping. Liverpool are a club that get a lot of quotes for the carpet, aren't they? They speak to agents. They speak to representatives, clubs, as in, what would it take? What are you looking for? Because that is all data that goes into data-driven decisions. So, and people go, it's all just inquiries. Well, it's going to start somewhere, hasn't it? But not everything is going to lead to a purchase. So, honestly, I would love to be on here, because can you imagine the numbers we do if I went exclusive, Barreira's going to sign tonight? It would go mental, wouldn't it? But, again, I always feel like a broken record a bit. To disappoint, nothing genuinely new or solid in terms of an incoming, I'm afraid.
You talked about the triggers for incomings, and quite rightly, it's going to involve outgoings, whether loans, whether transfers. So we might try to make a bit of money on Endo, but one way or the other, that bloated squad you referred to, that excess of footballers that can't be all kept happy, will need to be managed. And there is a lot of chat about some of our younger talents on the move, loans here, loans there. That is an important part of the squad management that you're speaking about. And if the Endo thing goes through, we'll see. There are, I heard chat about Tyler Morton and where he might go, Ben Doak and where he might go. Oh, that one, I'm looking forward to you talking about that, because I found that an odd one. Callum Chambers as well. And what will disappoint, I think, a huge amount of Reds. The strongest of all the links that I've heard is for Jayden Danns. Maybe talk us through these, and if you don't mind as well, where you land on the idea of loaning out Jayden Danns, who for me was a kind of a highlight of last season, and massively unused in the run-in, and people dismiss that out of hand, say he's a kid, it's not what you do. Okay, well, what about what he did on the pitch did you not want to see more of, was my question. Anyway, talk us through these potential outgoings.
Yeah, it's a funny one, Jayden Danns, because everyone had the Plymouth one. It's done. He's going to join Wayne Rooney and all this. So, I mean, upon investigation, and David Lynch talked about this, is Liverpool are just at the moment focused on getting him back from his injury, because that's why he didn't go to the US specifically. However, even to today, where, got like asking around, the other day we got is there is a lot of interest in this kid. And it would be a surprise, realistically, if he isn't loaned out. Don't think it has to be Plymouth. The level will be interesting they pick, but Liverpool have a raft of suitors for Jayden Danns, so that is fully expected. Luke Chambers, that seems like he's going to go to Wigan. It's an interesting one because he was there last season, so people will think, would he go to a higher level? I think the one thing about Luke Chambers, he's really, really highly rated at the AXA. All the youth coaches think he's got so many attributes in terms of left foot, left back, centre back. However, he did struggle a bit when he got thrown into that first team picture in those Europa League games. That was noticeable. So they were very careful about his progression. And just because he struggled a bit in those games, no one's written him off. It was, a good learning experience, Trev. But I think they look at it a bit like Calvin Ramsey. They imagine Wigan had a season of Calvin Ramsey right back, Luke Chambers left back, and it went really well. That's good development for both players. So instead of going higher for the Championship, etc., they have that relationship with Wigan. That is the way the club looked at it that way. Ben Doak's a fascinating one because the two clubs that are named are definitely interested, Southampton and Leicester. The thing about Ben Doak, Trev, is beats a man for fun. Being a player is not difficult for Ben Doak at all. Almost like, he'd be the perfect cage ball style football. It's easy for him to be a man. It's not difficult. The question mark, and it's a big question mark, and it's early on his career, so it's not one that lasts long, but you just don't know his end product. That's the big question. We're not quite seeing that, and we're thinking, okay, with regular football, I get that, with a bit of coaching. His decision-making, if you want to call it that, I'd say end product, is something he needs to work on. For me, there's a bit of what the club needs to do, what the club wants to do, and balancing it. I'll explain what I mean by that. I think a top-level championship will be perfect for him. One where they look at a club in the championship and says, which is the club in the championship? It's going to be near the top, banging in the most goals week in, week out. Is he going to get that opportunity? That was where I think the best development would be. Leicester and Southampton, for me, I think they will struggle in the Premier League. And I actually think if he's there may come a point where the manager goes, I can't play these kids. I need to put my seniors and just get points, if that makes sense. So I don't see that as a good move. Here's the thing that people aren't talking about with Endo. Liverpool wouldn't mind it being Leicester, Trev, by the way. Why would Liverpool not mind it being Leicester? Because they've not agreed a tribunal fee, or they're going to tribunal, I should say. Sorry, they've not agreed a fee for young Trey Downey. And where did they pinch him from? You could argue that. Leicester. Now, if Endo goes on loan to Leicester, do you see what I'm saying here, Trev? It kind of smooths pathways in relation, shall we say, a little bit all of a sudden, doesn't it? And it could be that someone, it wouldn't surprise you, put it this way, or me at all, if Endo goes to Leicester and someone says, oh, what's the loan fee? Oh, we didn't charge a loan fee. Like, hey, surely we got like $1.5 million or something like that. You see what I'm saying here, just to smooth that Trey situation as well. So the sort of suggestions I had or an update was that Liverpool, they will still look at what's best for him and everything, but they wouldn't mind him going to Leicester, and that's why they're specifically one of the clubs mentioned. Premier League, lower level, I'm not sure personally, but we'll have to see how that pans out. It's all going to happen after the US tour. There's definite interest in Tyler Morton. As you said, there's a raft of clubs, by the way, interested in Tyler Morton, permanent and loan. It's all going to be what Arne Slot and Liverpool decide on him specifically, but there is interest galore. And I mean that galore is all the info we're getting in Tyler Morton. Carvalho again, interest in him. I mean, his comments, Trev, the one about, well, I think I'm a number 10, and Slot said, he sees me as a wide player. And that's despite him playing 2 number 10s in the first game, like 2 false 9s, as he called it. This is personal. I don't know this for definite, because there's definite interest again from clubs. I suspect he's gone by the end of the window. It doesn't make him a bad player by any means. I just think he's the wrong position at the wrong time for Liverpool. And it might just be the right thing for the kid to let him make that move and turn a tidy profit at the same time. So, yeah, loads going on in the outgoing space. Be interesting to see what happens when the US tour ends and things progress.
Yeah, well, exactly. The manager is forced into bringing a certain type of squad there because of all the players that are absent, and that's its own thing. We can only read a small amount into that. You would imagine, though, for those lads who are left behind from that tour, that they're definitely thinking, well, I guess I've had my chips here in terms of club involvement for the year, in the first team at least. It's interesting that Leicester angle you've got there, I think, is a good one. I think you could be onto something there. And I saw, well, it was an article at least attributed to James Pearce. I didn't have access to the article itself, but the gist of it was that, typical bad news, Jimbo, considering Liverpool will be on the squad with potential, this is never going to be a busy summer. You know yourself, the usual managing expectations nonsense that we get at this time of the year, that some people go off the deep end about. But just one last thing on that. There are 2 guys that, really featured in terms of this young squad. Like, obviously, we've referred to Jayden Dance there, but James McConnell and Bobby Clark are 2 guys who I think really impressed a lot of people. And, I wonder, do our management see them as part of the squad? If it was Klopp, you still don't even know what would have happened, would they have gone on loan or whatever. Are there any rumours about those in particular? Because I'm hearing loads of Tyler Morton stories. Not so much for McConnell, and for Bobby Clark, maybe early in the summer I heard a few things. Anything being mentioned in relation to those 2 that you've heard?
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
Sports Social Podcast Network.